Hello everyone, this is Pico Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be a review of Batwoman Season 2 finale titled Power. Now, I apologise that this review has been a bit late, but due to the spectacular recent matches in the Euro 2020, this episode review was a bit delayed, but we will go on with the video now for you. Now, there will be spoilers in this review, so be warned if you haven't yet caught up with all of the episodes throughout the entire season, including this finale. Now, just to quickly recap, on the previous episode we saw that Ryan's identity as Batwoman was discovered by Black Mask, and he set her up to be arrested by the police discovering her possession of drugs. Ryan managed to evade capture and went back to save Mary and Luke, who were under attack from Kate, who had been under the influence of the Circi implantation of her memories and personality, and eventually Circi had gone on to steal various items from the Batcave. Alice had managed to gain her revenge by killing or stabbing Sophia, and we saw at the end that Kate or Circi ripping into the Batsuit. Was she going to redesign it and create a new costume for herself? We would wait and see, but that was the eventual cliffhanger that we left off on the previous episode. Now, overall, I have to say that I think this was a very weak finale, very poor in terms of its storytelling and execution. It tried to create big stakes for an epic conclusion, but it fell flat because so many elements felt half-hearted in terms of the effort put in. It was almost as if the writers just wanted to get this episode out of the way and essentially clear the decks and try to set up parts for the upcoming Season 3. So running through the main beats of the episode itself, it started off with Black Mask making television broadcasts, trying to influence Gotham City and instigate a power cut on the city in order to create chaos and anarchy. Again, how did he have the resources to create an entire power cut over the whole city? We don't know, but he wanted to basically create chaos throughout the city, asking everybody to take masks and wear them whilst doing it. He works with Circi, who had brought the items from the Batcave, as I mentioned before. Essentially, he wants to make himself the white saviour of Gotham by staging a murder of a version of Black Mask in front of everybody so that he can look like the hero who has saved the city. Ryan, Mary and Luke have to work together to locate Circi and Black Mask and try and stop them. Sophie joins and helps them out, of course. We later on see Luke come across some old pictures of Batman which were drawn by his dad, and then just conveniently out of the blue comes across a Batwing costume already and operational just like that. And this stretched very much for credibility because you'd assume that Luke knows every inch and every corner of the Wayne Enterprises, so why has he only stumbled across this now? So very much in timing with the Batwing suit that we had seen revealed online a couple of weeks ago. Ryan and Sophie team up to go and encounter Circi and Black Mask, and they are all of a sudden joined up by Alice, who shows up out of nowhere. Again, this highlights one of the main frustrating beats throughout the season, where Alice has somehow managed to break into any facility or building within Gotham, whether it be the Crow Security, Wayne Enterprises, Mary's Medical Center and Ryan's house as well. We see now a riot has escalated on the streets. For some reason, people have decided to break out and riot all over the city, despite being under no influence whatsoever under Black Mask. Again, stretching credibility, but this is very much of a tied television trope that we see throughout so many shows, where if there's a massive situation and people are cooped in or there's a power cut, then their natural reaction is to riot in the streets. We saw it recently with the likes of Westworld as well. So just a very cliched trope that we see throughout this play of events. Throughout the chaos, somebody gets stabbed and Sophie has to tend to their wounds while Ryan goes on with the quest for taking out Circi and Black Mask. And for some reason, they decided to take Sophie completely out of the fence. She doesn't really show up again till the end of the episode. So it really, I guess, underlines and disrespects Sophie's role throughout the season. And you're kind of asking at this point, what is her role without the complete show? Does she have any future involvement going ahead for Season 3? Alice reunites with Ryan and they team up together again to quest for Circi and Black Mask. And at this point you are again asking, what is the point of Alice and her existence within the show? Why is she working together with Ryan? Why does Ryan continue to work with her despite the fact that she has killed her mother? She's had multiple instances throughout the entire show to take Alice out or get her arrested, but because we need to keep Alex's presence on the show, we have to come up with implausible turn of events to keep Alice working with Ryan. Alice apologises for killing Ryan's mother. Again, this is another facet of the show trying to show Alice in a redemptive light, but then all of a sudden she turns around and accuses Ryan of being responsible for killing her mother at childbirth. So you're kind of asking, what do the writers want to do? They're trying to have it both ways. They want to maintain Alice as a villain throughout the series, but at the same time make her sympathetic, and it just never works. It's a balancing act that really now has worn its welcome, and they really have to make a decision if they're going to keep Alice for season 3. Is she a villain or anti-hero? They can't keep straddling this fence because it's getting a bit tiresome, and again just drains credibility overall at the expense of Ryan. We later on see Agent Tararoff has been injected with mixture of snakebite and the super serum used by Bane. Taken from the Batcave, he is then set loose and attacks Mary. And again, this is really insulting if you're a major fan of the Batman mythology, in particular the Bane character. Once again, it shows how much there is an endless struggle in terms of getting Bane right. We've seen this primarily from The Dark Knight Rises to an extent, and also from Gotham as well. And also Batman and Robin, directed by Joe Schumacher. There was just a real struggle from people in terms of visualising Bane and getting the true nuance of the character right. We didn't need Tararoff to be the de facto Bane on the show. It looked very shoddy and very tacky. The fact that he had to puff up his shirt to give him this more hulking presence just looked very unconvincing. We see him on the pursuit of Mary throughout the streets, and she falls off the building, and then all of a sudden she's saved by Luke in the Batwing costume that he discovered before. And overall, it's not a terrible costume in terms of the exterior and how it looks. I guess the main issue is the headpiece. Just looks too big for the body. This is a precursor to what we will be seeing presumably in season 3 when Luke is far more involved in Batwing. We then jump quickly to Ryan and Alice fighting Kate or Circi in the Batsuit, and at this point as well the pacing is really uneven in terms of the overall episode. We're just really rushing from one beginning to the next. Characters are travelling to all these different locations, super speed, and there's no transition. There's no sense of characters really struggling to get to one location to the other. Clearly now the writers are in this mode just to get this overall storyline done as quickly as possible. All the fight scenes throughout this episode are really darkly lit, so it can't really make out who's fighting who or what's really going on. This has been a problem throughout the whole entire season, and I'll talk about that in another video of course. But we go ahead and we move towards Alice fighting Black Mask, defeating him very easily, spraying him with some venom from a rose it looks like, and this results in the mask being permanently stuck to his face again. Very hokily done. Of course, this is setting him up now as being the complete Black Mask character, and I'm pretty sure he'll be making a future appearance in his future self within season 3, but it just came across as a bit of a laughable moment. And then we jump quickly once again to all of a sudden Ryan pursuing Circi or Kate in the Batmobile, chasing her on a bike again. No sense of transition, no sense of plotting in terms of how characters jump from one moment to the next. They quickly jump out of their vehicles and they start fighting, and once again a very darkly lit fight scene on the bridge. And the bridge itself was a callback to the scene at the beginning where we saw a young Beth knocked over the bridge in the bus by the Joker, if you remember. Alice all of a sudden manages to catch up with both people fighting, and she joins in the fight, and then in a really predictable moment she jumps over the bridge with Kate or Circi. And again, playing back to that initial moment mentioned at the beginning of the series, we then get weirdly a flashback scene to Alice saying goodbye to Ocean. Again, I was never convinced by their love relationship. It was just more padding to justify Alice's presence on the show. Why they needed to include that in. We jump back to another dreamlike sequence where we see a young Alice reuniting with Kate. I guess this was them trying to reflect on what life could have been if Kate managed to reunite with Beth overall. We did get some reference to this early on, I think, throughout the season. I can't remember exactly what episode, but again, this was the big effort to try and sympathise with Alice, trying to make her in some sort of redemptive action. They push through with this, of course, where we see them both drowning underwater, and then Alice revives and then saves Kate from underwater, drags her back to the ground, and then Ryan helps her to resuscitate herself. And then all of a sudden, the police just showing out of nowhere. They managed to find out where they were located. Again, I don't know how they managed to do this. There was a power cut, so how did they manage to track them down using whatever signals? They wouldn't have been able to use any signals. So how exactly the police managed to track them down, I don't know. And for some reason, they only apprehend Alice. They don't apprehend Ryan, who of course is on probation. They leave Kate alone, who is suffering, of course. So they just take away Alice on her own, and they leave the other two. Again, very unlikely, straining credibility and all plausibility. And once again, the writers didn't really want to deal with that, any fallout or how that process happened, what happened between Ryan and Kate on the ground. We all of a sudden jump forward, we get a news report, and everything now has all been wrapped up. The general population of Gotham came out of their senses and stopped rioting all of a sudden. And very conveniently, all of the criminal forces of both the Falseface and Alice's Wonderland gang have all been arrested, despite it being a blackout. And they've all conveniently been put in Arkham Asylum, just like that, nice and easily. Again, just they didn't really care about this development. We could argue that maybe this should have been a 2-part episode if they were going to introduce and leave beats like this. And all of a sudden we go to Ryan's probation hearing, and she gets released from her sentence. She makes a speech how she hasn't really changed, but if it means that she can get released from parole, she'll make her change. Again, just nice, quick and easy, no problems sorted out. We then come back to Kate, who has been reunited with both Luke and Mary back at the Wayne Enterprises, and all of a sudden her influence from Circi has been completely removed. Who removed it? When it was removed? How it was removed? We don't know. She's been completely healed and revived, just like that. No remnant of the memories from Circi. I'm not even sure they even explained it at this point. Again, the writers didn't care. They were just trying to wrap this up as soon as possible. And then we get a quick final discussion between both Kate and Ryan. Kate all of a sudden has decided that she doesn't want to be Batwoman anymore, and she's quite happy for Ryan to take on the reins. Again, going completely against what the character has stood for since season 1. It does beg the question again, what was the point in bringing her back if she wasn't going to stay permanently? She just has no interest anymore in helping saving the city. All she wants to do now is search for Bruce. Why? We don't know. She has a final meeting with Sophie, who I'm really surprised doesn't go with Kate at this point and help her up, because as I mentioned before earlier on in this video, there is really no point or purpose to Sophie now. She's got no real integral role to the series. The Crow security firm has been completely dissolved. Jacob has been taken away in prison. So what is the point of Sophie? They don't really need her as such, because Luke can handle all the tech requirements in terms of helping Ryan. So I'm not really sure why Sophie's there or why she didn't go with her. So they have a final embrace, and I think overall this had to happen, because there's no way that they could have 2 Batwomen on the show in Kate and Ryan plus Luke as Batwing. It would have been too much. Again, it would have given that similar problem to what we've seen with The Flash in terms of too many heroes on the show. So they had to pick one. So I suppose they had hedged their bets on Ryan throughout the beginning of this season, so it would have made them look silly and indecisive if they all of a sudden done a massive U-turn and stuck with Kate overall for the 3rd season. So I will give them credit for actually making a decision, though I still feel overall they should have recast Kate for the 2nd season, and I will talk about that in a separate video. We then get 2 final scenes where we see Ryan meeting up again with Alice, who has been incarcerated now. Again, Will we see her surface for season 3? It's probably likely. They will probably break out at some stage. She's been imprisoned many times before and she's had no issues breaking out before. So again, they clearly know that Alice is still the most interesting character in terms of her overall persona. So they want to keep that trump card just in case they need to. Alice reveals that she knows for somehow that Ryan's biological mother is still alive. Again, why do they need to introduce that beat? How does Alice know or find it out? It's never made clear. So I'm sure they're going to build that narrative up for season 3. We're going to get some exposition as to where Ryan's mother is and what she's been up to. Will she be a villain overall for the season 3? We will wait and see. And then we come on to the final scene where we see in the lake, we see certain items of famous Batman villains such as Penguin's umbrella in the river. Why is his umbrella in the river? I don't know. How the hell did it get there? I don't know. Why didn't he pick it up? And then we see some plants kind of growing out from the river and stretching out. Again, this is a hinting at the emergence of poison ivy as well. So if we're going to think about it, if season 3 is going to be the last one of Batwoman, and it seems likely given the declining viewing ratings, then they're going to go all out and they're going to have, it seems, a huge swath of Batman villains making their appearance throughout season 3. Why they can't come up with more original villains, but this has been a problem for any typical Batman show that we've seen most recently. So that's what I expect to see throughout season 3 overall. So that's it really in terms of the overall episode of Batwoman season 2. Like I said at the beginning of this video, very flat, very disappointing, very underwhelming overall for what has been a very underwhelming season, and I will do a separate season review and I'll try to get that uploaded very shortly overall. But in terms of this finale itself, just very lackluster in terms of its preparation, its planning. I don't think you can blame COVID at this stage because they have had a nearly full-on season. They've had 18 episodes, so they've had plenty of time to try and develop a full-on suitable season finales for this episode. But I think it highlights many of the flaws and indecisions throughout this whole entire season. But as I mentioned, I will talk about that in a separate video. So very weak, very disappointing finale to the show, and it doesn't really bode well to what we will potentially see for season 3 overall. So those are my thoughts and feelings on the season 2 finale of Batwoman. Again, apologies for the lateness, but I will try and upload my overall review of the overall season of Batwoman season 2, and I'll try and get that done as soon as possible. But those are my thoughts and feelings on the season finale. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you see any potential or interest in a 3rd season of Batwoman? Do you think there's any possibility that we could perhaps get a season 4 of the show, and perhaps even more unlikely a season 5? Let me know what your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. Please also hit those like and subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.